the people about your single projects or different ones. We have like 20 projects more or less, maybe more. So the optimal thing should be to come here, speak for like 3 minutes, and saying briefly what the project is doing, and then you can also find connections with other projects. For example, I collaborate with this and that. And especially, what is your view on commoning, or what kind of commons are you contributing to, or what other commons are you building? And that's it. So
maybe we should just do it by rows so that we don't have that, like, then people can get ready.
We can fight for the place.
Just so we don't take time with people, like, who's going next then.
Okay.
Choosing the next one.
So when you come here, you take the microphone, you speak in the microphone. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Who wants to break the ice? Grace?
I'm going to break the ice.
Yeah.
Hi.
Mike.
I'm Grace. I'm working on a reputation currency based on some research that I've done with eco-villages, and we're going to be doing a design sprint looking at how to do multi-tiered reputational systems. And the idea is that it'll create interoperability between communities rather than individuals, and that it won't be interchangeable for fiat currency, and it'll be invisible to the current system because it's not interchangeable with the current system. That's what I'm working on.
Actually, is that a project?
I'm working with the Eco-Village Network in Europe, the Gen EU network.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
You can also go a little bit deeper. We have 1 hour and a half, so 10 minutes each.
Don't squish it like that. It's a very sensitive microphone. Next one, please.
You want to follow Rose?
I'm actually not involved in like specific projects here, so I think yeah.
Grace, you want to nominate a project from this?
Okay, we're going back to I can show my project. I'm the founder of Deconnective. It is a worker cooperative. We launched it last year. And the main goal of the cooperative is to connect innovations and ecosystems in the alternative economy space. So cooperatives, platform cooperatives, blockchain experiments and infrastructure and digital commoning. And the basic idea would be that to have an ecosystem or ecosystem of ecosystems and to share resources in order to finance people doing connection works all the day, because it's quite a vital work. We were thinking about that with Andreas yesterday, and it doesn't seem a functions like the other because it's not so concrete, but actually creating connection is quite vital. There are a lot of projects that work more or less in the same field, but don't know each other. So yeah, we would like to create an organizational paradigm to make the ecosystem grow faster and better together. Yeah, so that's it.
What is your website?
Deconnective.network, I think. Yeah. Who's next? Scott, it's your time.
It's just introductions. All right, hi everybody. I'm Scott Morris again. I'm basically a token economist and systems designer for hire. I'm independent as of right now. Recently, I was in South France with a good friend of mine by the name of Cameron Burgess. He has a firm Armillaria that does system design strategy, and what I said earlier in the Fishbowl about we have to move $50 trillion very rapidly, etc. We need a system that's designed for that, and their thinking around this is documented in a document called From Billions to Trillions, which you can find at trillions.global. we were basically working on the next iteration of this document, right? Talking about outcome-based financing mechanisms, where DLT fits in, data architectures, all these bottlenecks that are slowing down our legacy infrastructure, right, have to be confronted and overcome. Yeah, that's basically it. I don't, normally I'm repping a brand, but no brand today. It's great. Who's next?
Theo, you're in the project.
Okay, I just introduced myself before, but basically I'm the communication staff of RAMIX and IJCCR. RAMIX is the Research Association for Monetary Innovation and Community and Complementary Currency Systems. IJCCR is the International Journal for Community and Currency Research. And we are currently working on a cost proposal, European cooperation in science and technology, and the idea is to launch Ecosystem. Sorry. Okay. The idea is to start Ecosystem on monetary ecosystem and monetary plurality. So if you want to join the network, please just stop me and let me know because I'm collecting the names. And I'm also in the freebies team, so Freiburg Institute for Basic Income Studies. And we have a research team with Lisa, Gustav, and Circus UBI, that maybe some of you already know. And I think it's fine. Thank you.
We're going way faster than we imagined because usually people start talking for hours and we have to stop them. You can take your time.
Great. I can talk for hours.
I can be that.
So, in fact, my project is not here. Actually, I wouldn't even know how to define what my project is because we're trying to touch so many things. But if there is one thing where I live in, is the liminal village. And the logo is not here, but it's actually two circles intertwined. And that represents like anything that is considered to be different and the commonality. So that means system A, system B, for instance, or you name it, music A, music B. Anything that is in transition, and what we focus is right in the middle. So what we are actually is a community that gets created every month. So we go with the lunar cycle. People come in, they get to know each other, co-create, and then leave, and maybe some new people stay, some new people come in, some new people stay. But what they do, the people that come, they're all very diverse people, so they are not just developers. We actually have prerequisite diversity, so the more diverse, the better. We try to kind of create this temporary community where we use technologies to aid ourselves. So in a way, we can call it like a computer-aided community, right? And what's the final, so that's why all the projects are not here. There are a lot of projects that we're working on, and I wouldn't even know where to start. But we are talking about ways to account for contributions, which actually destroy communities, by the way. Just, I want to reiterate what Omi was saying before. If there is one thing that I'm currently working on is really a new social network of some sort, because in practice that's what we're looking for. We're looking at how do people connect with each other, and what project are they working on, and which location hosts these projects. So in this way we can really have an overview of what's, and find each other. A project that was hosted at Liminal has contributors which were hosted somewhere else, which are working on different projects. So a way to navigate through this massive graph that is really a social network. But not only that, but also to share revenues, to share, financially share what actually rewards you can get within your network of trust. And that's something that it is pretty much a social system and an economic system. So it is a social economic system. And I can show something if you're interested on where we are at. Yeah, I think for now I'll just keep it at this. There are many projects, since every month we might start a new one. So I'll pass the ball.
Thank you. Hi everyone, once again I'm Michel, and I represent the whole ecosystem that you see here from 3 organizations. The first building block is carbon base. We're trying to use carbon credits and carbon calculation to sort of drive change, bring more investments into projects that matter, and drive carbon markets at a different level. Through Project ARC, we're bringing NFTs for conservation efforts, and we're partnering with people that do things on the ground already, like WWF, Beast Park Foundation, Jane Goodall, and all that good stuff to bring more funding into that. And we're using the NFTs as a tool because they've reached a mainstream market where they're easily recognizable. They provide, a lot of criticism says that they don't provide value. Well, I would say that by putting all our hats together, we can create something that actually provides value for long term, not just to buy a JPEG, And we're trying to do with Impact NFT Alliance to galvanize all the efforts and bring more utility and more things into the space so that the NFTs actually matter and fund projects that have a real impact. So carbon credits, natural resources, and in a sense, the commons for the NFTs, because if you're doing things together, it's better than just doing on your own. Yeah, I'll pass the mic.
Good morning, I'm Vincenzo Giorgino. I'm an economic sociologist at the Department of Economic and Social Science at the University of Torino, and I'm coordinator of the Wise Life Lab. And basically, we are oriented to integrate technology of the self, basically what we call contemplative social science, and co-designing ecosystem oriented to protecting life, essentially. And in this period, we are working on a grounded theory of the commoning, and we'll present some preliminary results on next Monday morning. And at the same time, we have some contacts in rural areas of the south of Italy, one in Sardinia and one in near Paestum in the province of Salerno, where there are some problems, some from fire, consequences of fires of the last summer. And we are trying to understand if we can be helpful to help these people to connect through a system of transaction based on digital ledger technologies, with some contribution also from the outside, because these areas involves also some tourism. And so we would like to integrate the two kind of economies, local based on olive production and tourists as well, from northern of Italy especially. And the idea is to create tokens and to help with these tokens to change the current economy, because in one of these areas, olives cannot be for 10 or 20 years, no more the core or the culture, not of the economy only. It's also an existential, they have an existential problem as well. And this is fascinating and dramatic at the same time. So we will ask some of you, because we are economic sociologists, we developed with the Department of Computer Science a platform, a web app. Maybe we can use that, maybe it's not the right one for different reasons that we can explain. And we can, if you're curious, we can go on commonshood.eu. And it's a web app to create tokens for your own, etc. And then we have another project, the CO3 project with Athens and Paris. And we are testing it in the next month. maybe we will try to use it in neighboring tutoring with our orientation I explained before, which is not the orientation of the full project. First of all, the project is based that the data as a commons are intended as the property of the members of the consortium, voluntary association, universities, and local institutions. We would like to push it on the other people, participants of the association are the owners of the data. And you are invited to, but you are not the owner. This means that you need the blockchain and you need a plugin, probably with another one, if possible, ubiquitous commons created by an Italian colleague. Could be one or another other system that we don't know exactly which is the best for. But this means that a data cooperative, productive data cooperative that can integrate the system of transaction. And if they will have a wallet, in that wallet you can add not only the transaction, but also your health data, for example, your green pass. And at a certain soil, this can have an economic value. It has a power value in the community because the COVID-19, how it evolves, and it right now, you don't need. In Italy, they say now in Lombardia, the spread of the COVID is, when they say now, they say 22 days ago. Because your data go to the pharmacy, the national assistant, from the national assistant, your region, from the health district to the region, from the region to the ministry, from the ministry to the Institute of Super Health, Higher Health, and then to Accademia dei Lincei, which is a scientific organization that is supposed to get the data public. We are still expecting that. So change it is also a really great challenge. Thank you. Sorry for the time. Okay.
Hello. I'm Ome. I feel very weird to say that I'm representing anyone. What I feel comfortable saying is that I'm doing stuff with a bunch of people and we use a name to point to what we are doing. That's Bonfire Link. Yeah. So it's been now 3 years that we've been trying to we started using crypto to organize action, music events. Not to rely on the legal structures that are usually necessary to set up an association, so using multisig and DAOs. But now I would say that and I resonate a lot with some of the opinions before, that there is some, activism involved in here. Now I believe that there is a lot of self-directed activism that I'm doing and that other people are doing with me in this project, which is trying to change how we experience certain things in our lives and to activate ourselves to do things that are meaningful to us. And in the process, building capacity to figure out how we can have more of what it is meaningful to us. So we run discussion every week, but not just discussion, exercise and also gifting, cooking for each other, a bit like what we are experimenting here. And finding what are the tools, the methodologies, the ways of communicating with each other to explore how to make this commoning more real, to ourselves more tangible, and how we could experience that more in our lives. So I would say that we are practitioners of commons. We are experimenting with ourselves. We are experimenting with different rituals that we can adopt to maintain certain values and principles that we discovered useful in our everyday lives, and to explore it in community and not trying to impose ideas onto others, but rather trying to inspire others into being more aware of how they experience community and what they can do for each other. So yeah, that's what we're doing. I don't know in which way we can be related to any or all projects here, but I'm sure that the discussions and many of the insights that I bring from my involvement with this collective that I experienced mostly in Geneva is going to bring value to the discussions here. Thank you. Next. What did I touch? Was it this or that? No.
Testing, testing.
It's for recording, it's not for.
No, it's just for the stream,
It's
so
for recording, it's not for
you don't have to hold
amplification.
it close either. It's not for the speakers. Just talk like this.
So I can,
Like this. Like this level is fine.
okay. Hi, my name's Eliza. I am a monetary reformist from New York and also a commons enthusiast. I'm here for partially representing Trust Lines, or the Trust Lines network. So I'll start by saying that like the guiding assumption of my work is that money is a commons, and Trust Lines is one answer to that. If you assume money is a commons, then how do you build a money system to reflect that principle? So Trust Lines is one of the ways that you could, address that. And Trust Lines, to summarize it very quickly, is a peer-to-peer credit system or mutual credit system. You could look at it as like a few different ways. One way is that it's like very accessible payment system that you don't need an ID or a bank account to use. But you could also look at it as a totally decentralized monetary system, not just because of the decentralized blockchain that it lives on, but from the perspective that it's decentralized in its issuance. So with mutual credit, anyone and everyone is sort of on equal grounds to issue money. And we can talk more about Trust Lines later. I'm also a universal basic income advocate, and that concept of that is actually how I got into what I'm doing now, because you can look at basic income not just as a social tool, but also as a monetary tool. And this also goes to address the question of money as a commons. How should money be issued into society, top down or bottom up? So that's sort of the guiding forces to my work, and I've also different crypto basic income projects and done some research in that area, also in decentralized identity systems for that purpose. Right, and then I do some other projects that this crowd probably would find interesting. In the crypto art realm, for example, a project called Graffitieth, which is a combination of a public art canvas and the Harburger tax. So we can play around with that if anyone wants to learn more about that. And there's another project I worked on a few years ago called Astro Ledger. And this project is perhaps seeing renaissance now in the NFT golden age. But the idea is that we wanted to build a decentralized way for people to learn about and appreciate astronomy. And so you can name a star on the blockchain, and all of the money goes towards a pool for space grants. So this is a pretty interesting art project that I'm also happy to talk about. And yes, I think this summarizes me in a nutshell. So I could also probably talk for hours, but I won't do that right now. Thanks.
2008, I said to myself, I'm going to be the guy that builds the software for the local exchange trading system network. If you don't know what that is, imagine many hundreds, maybe a couple of thousand local communities around the world, and they trade goods and services with each other, and they keep account with a local unit. And they've been doing this since the 90s, more or less. And I said, well, this movement is absolutely hopeless in terms of software. What they need is an open source thing, and then that will make it much more efficient. Now there's about 300 communities, mostly in France, using that software, and I maintain it with very little reward. In some ways, therefore, you could say this is a total failure of the project, because I'm the central point of failure, and we've never raised any money. But in other ways, it's a very successful project because it actually has users. And the reason it has users is because I went to the community, the network that already existed, and I said, I want to build software for you, and I want to build software with you. So I view my work as very successful in that. So they use a method of issuing the currency in a different family from the cryptocurrencies. They use Austrian economics, and the Let's system thinks about money in terms of the credit theory of money. And the credit theory of money means that when you issue or spend a unit of money into circulation, you simultaneously promise to accept that later on in payment for your own goods and services. And that's a very decentralized way of issuing money. Like Alicia said, you could call it mutual credit because you're issuing the credit to each other in the group and redeeming it and bearing the risk of that credit. And you work together in a group to manage that, and you need governance to do that. So all of these Let's networks are mutual credit systems. And I wanted, really right from the start, to connect them all together because they were completely separate. They're very locally minded people, and some of them would want to spend money, their units that they made, in different groups. And others of them said, well, no, this is a local currency. We don't want interoperability. But I thought this needs to be a global network. We need to have a proper way for all of these diverse systems with different governance and different ways of issuing tokens, and even different values behind the tokens. I don't mean dollar values, I mean values behind the tokens. How can they exchange them for each other? How can we build a system that will scale and retain the independence and the pride and the separateness of all of these independent groups? So I designed the smallest thing on this thing, the Credit Commons protocol. And I built a reference implementation, and that's what I'm here to talk about and share. It's not anything to do with a blockchain. Blockchains could connect to it. Any software, any group could connect to it. It's there to serve the relationships and pre-existing trading relationships that groups will set up with each other. So it's coming from a very human side and not a technocratic side. Like, there's no algorithms in the Credit Commons. It simply says, if you want to owe me some money in a way that I'll pay it back, then this is just how you record it in a ledger. And it does that in a recursive way, which let's not get into now, but it scales through recursion. You make groups and groups of groups and groups of groups of groups. And that way you build an infinitely large structure. I think that's all I need to say for now. Thank you very much.
We always travel in groups. I thought I would give a quick sort of situational, if you wouldn't mind stepping. We are kind of this cloud here. And there's a lot of organizations in this cloud, which is interesting because it forms kind of this polycentric mesh of different capacities and different resources. Actually, Zia, I'd love to invite you up as well. So what I'm going to do is just give a quick situation of how these are all organized or interconnected, and then I'm going to hand it off to people who can dive into each one very briefly. So I'm Jeff from the Commons Stack. The Commons Stack is working on modular primitives for commons-based microeconomies, general patterns. The TEC is an instance of that pattern. So the TEC has taken the tools, the patterns designed by the Commons Stack and deployed them, or is currently deploying them. All sorts of interesting stuff going on there. The idea of the Token Engineering Commons, of course, is to forward token engineering, which is a larger community that block science feeds into with a lot of their sort of theoretical and applied research gets sort of translated into token engineering components, which the Commons Stack hopes to not standardize, but put out there for different groups to deploy. A couple more on here. Giveth, the Commons Stack was born out of Giveth. Griff will go into some more detail there. They're building the future of giving, some amazing innovation happening there. And of course, CAD, we can't forget, is sort of the simulation and modeling engine that allows us to do all sorts of computational experiments and computer-aided design, computer-aided governance. So that is sort of the high level of how all these organizations interconnect. And I'm happy to hand off to anyone who wants to take. Yeah, Z, if you, please.
Cool. So I'm Z. I founded Block Science a couple years ago. I kind of jumped ship from my corporate job and said screw it, started doing R&D on my own, things I care about. I met a bunch of these folks and I started building my own R&D company. We did stuff, and frankly, probably the biggest achievement to date is that we developed CAD, which is a open source software that we use to kind of carry forward workflows from large scale systems engineering and way that you design complex systems in the kind of industrial era and try to shift them to a more ecological mode. But we still need the same tools, and so we were like, okay, but let's do it open source, built it on Python, integrated with the data science stack, and then just kind of brought forward the methods. We use it in our design work, we do it in our data science work, and I guess at TEGG, at Token Engineering Global Gathering in 2019, Jeff actually gave a talk and kind of announced that it was being pushed into open source, and so that's pretty exciting. I think that's the most important thing for me to talk about. Otherwise, I develop and translate methods and tools with my actually pretty large research team now at Block Science, and we do our best to kind of mentor those skills rather than guard them. So we have a pretty close relationship with the token engineering community where we attempt to take what we learn and make it as available as possible and allow other people to iterate and expand on it. And so kind of pushing a more social institution part of the engineering practice. People talk about software engineering, we're really talking about engineering, which is the kind of group or body of people who want to sort of steward the use of technology for human ends. And so kind of poking at the token engineering blob, because we don't have Angela here yet, I think it's super important for people to remember that when you say engineer, you're invoking a sort of social responsibility to the public good in the use of technology. And so, my part in this constellation has really come from the effort to translate the R&D in engineering and applied science into a more open source, more bottom-up view of that engineering practice, as opposed to one that is primarily informed by regulators and licensure, but rather a first order intrinsic motivation to provide applied science and engineering for public good and for the outcome of everybody. So that's my little spiel. I'm gonna go make salad.
Yeah, I'll pass it. I'll play cleanup.
Yeah, but I want your short, 10-second trusted seed thing.
So the Trusted Seed is a core community of the Commons Stack, essentially sort of the DAO aspect of the Commons Stack is the trusted community and the seed that will hopefully birth 1,000 commons. We need people who have these skills, these experience in the TEC is the first reference implementation, but we hope there will be hundreds, if not thousands, and the Trusted Seed is invited to participate in a lot of these experiments and pass on the learning and the expertise. And I will pass it to Dan, who is the steward of the Trusted Seed.
Yeah, I meant like the 5-second kind of intro from Jeff. No, he basically said everything. So it's kind of tricky, but yeah, thinking about the Trusted Seed, it's everything Jeff said, but we are 306 people right now, which is beautiful. I know a lot of you are in the Trusted Seed. Who's Trusted Seed here? Oh, yeah! Yeah, it will be, I'm sending the application link right now to the group. It will be nice to have you all. Anyhow, the whole thing is, Token Engineering Commons came to life. That's amazing. We had it was like, how many people? Like 210?
Well, 270 in total.
Oh, yeah, with the builders and everything. It was, 270 people from the Trusted Seed participating, actively engaged in the Token Engineering Commons. That's beautiful. Anyhow, but besides that, myself is just been designing all the mechanics behind this, like all the processes. And right now we're working on, we scale a little bit the team, and right now we're working just on the other aspect, like co-designing and opening up the Trusted Seed, taking some of the amazing learnings from the Token Engineering Commons, like working groups and other things that we can do. So more from the, let's say, behavioral design kind of thing, but more human, come and let's go design instead of like an aspect of like, we're gonna design motivations and, like thingies into the system so you guys participate more. That's not the logic. The logic is just to gather the Trusted Seed to design for the Trusted Seed. So yeah, I'm also the steward of the Giveth House. So you guys come by to Barcelona, need a bed to crash for a couple of days, you're very much welcome down there.
Hello, everyone. So I will just talk a little bit about some of the projects we're working on and the new narrative that we're using, the new story, to kind of tell, because our work is so multidimensional. So we are relating it to chakras, being as I have a background in studying yogic science and philosophy. So the Trusted Seed is the root chakra. So like Dan said, kind of curating or engaging with mission-aligned commoners like yourselves and getting them into this core trusted group. And as Dan said, and Jeff said, we'll be using that to seed many commons. And then we also hope that they will be stewarding a pool of various tokens. So working with a lot of different communities want to align with the Trusted Seed and give tokens or also ask for their help in stewarding or helping with different advisory and knowledge for new and upcoming communities. And then there's the the Svati, I only know the Sanskrit. Anyway, the next chakra is commons deployments. So this is kind of like the creative center, it's birthing commons. That's where Griff is leading the charge on that. And then the Manipura, the action, is our decentralized dev team, so the builders, the people of action. And then we have our heart chakra is our public goods ecosystem accelerator. So we raise a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars for many projects across the ecosystem through Gitcoin grants and other grants. And also that's the group that I'm kind of leading that's dealing with a lot of partnerships and working with other communities like Regen Network, who's working on ecological economics and land stewardship, and again, connecting this kind of like ethereal stuff to the ground where it actually matters and to see the real impact. As everyone said this morning, the world's on fire. So hopefully we can speed that up a bit. And then there's the throat chakra, which is our communications, which is, telling stories, having meme parties, and trying to share the awareness of some of the things going on. And then we have our Ajna chakra, which is the knowledge commons. So we're working on a library and also with block science to kind of start to bring all this knowledge in one place and also work with other projects and you to co-write. And we really, if you want to work on the library with us, we need somebody to drive it and help us do that. And then the crown is research, which is Jeff's department, which is working with all these other organizations. And a quick shout out as well, because Angela's not here, for token engineering. I want to just mention the Token Engineering Academy. It's kind of like Hogwarts for Web3. And they're just doing so much amazing education in the space and bringing these ideas of validating systems design and responsibility into creating economies and also doing open science initiatives, teaching across the board. And it's only 2 people running it with no money. So we really want to support them. And Angela will be here to speak for herself later, but I wanted to give a shout out. So look forward to hearing how you might want to engage with our different areas of the organization. We are always happy to see how we can align through our heart and collaborate together. So I'll pass it to Jeff with that.
And I'll pass it to Griff with that.
Yeah.
The legal association part.
The legal part? Okay, sure. Sure, I'm going to strap in because I like to talk with my hands and I don't know, I just get messy. Okay, so legal side of the trusted seed. The trusted seed is really the human bridge between our goal with the common stack is to create thousands of commons, and most of them shouldn't be focused on the Web3 world. The Web3 world is doing fine. Honestly, we want to create these commons around rivers, right? Like 6 people that want to have their work valued for stewarding a river. But those people stewarding a river don't really know how to work bonding curves. So the trusted seed is kind of that human bridge that can be, if they're aware of this group that wants to, build a microeconomy around producing value around this river, then the trusted seed can come in and support them if they care, right? So if some of the members care about that commons, they can join and bring the knowledge that they have of being part of all these other previous commons. And that's kind of the place of the trusted seed. And we curate it to make sure that it doesn't have like weird people in it that are just trying to extract value. Like weird people are a plus, but profit-seeking extractors, not so much, right? So it's curated in a centralized way, because that's how it can be done well. And then we also have it also doubles as a legal structure, like a minimum viable legal structure, so that the members of the trusted seed can actually be protected when they participate in another DAO. The dream here with this structuring is that the DAO itself needs to be able to innovate, and legal structures, when wrapped around a DAO, actually restrict that innovation. So we do a separation of whatever, and we focus on protecting the people, which is the people who are the ones who really need the legal protection, and let the DAO be free. So members of the trusted seed can be protected in approved DAOs that the board of the common stack protects. And so we're still sorting out how we scale to multiple DAOs besides the TEC, but it's in the works. And I guess that rolls into the TEC. So the TEC's goal is to be to support the advancement of token engineering in general. Sorry, I have gotten 2 hours of sleep in a 36-hour day, so I'm a little slow. I can feel it. But the token engineering community is a very decentralized group of geniuses that are working for free to advance token engineering. And the token engineering commons is a microeconomy, probably the largest microeconomy I see the common stack producing, that is focused on actually appreciating the value that's being produced. So you can say this economy kind of hopes to fund this community. Currently the TEC raised $1.5 million, so that's really great. We're in the middle of the launch. It's also the first example of collaborative economics, which is the idea that actually the people from the bottom up can design their own economy. They're not stupid, right? People aren't stupid, is the dream. There used to be this idea of monarchies where it's like, oh, guess what? People are too dumb to govern themselves, right? We need to have kings that manage everything. Okay, yeah, well, I think democracy is working out pretty well. But unfortunately, in economics, there's still complete centralized design and control. Even in the crypto space, all the work is being done in closed back rooms. Who decides if the interest rate changes, right? Like, who decides when money gets issued in an economy? And even in the crypto world, it's better because it's opt-in, right? But it's still a bunch of people in the back room designing the economies. who picked 32 Ether, right? Like, I don't remember the vote. So we're trying to do something different with the TEC and model this idea of, and I think it's, first off, it's a very privileged position to be in. It's the token engineering commons, right? So we have a bunch of token engineers that can actually, without much education, can actually design economies. So I don't mean to be like, oh, Ethereum, come on, vote on 32 Ether. No. It's a privileged position that we get to model after to kind of blaze a trail for collaborative economics and create these dashboards where anyone can propose a full design of the economy, and then we actually vote on it. So it's super cool. That's how we're launching with this collaborative economics idea, and hopefully it'll model it well for the other commons that come out of the common stack. And of course, once we actually get the economy designed, it's kind of like a decentralized grant program that has an economic arm with the bonding curve, and then a value creation arm through conviction voting, where it's kind of a grant program that will fund different projects like the Token Engineering Academy, CAD, likely many other really cool public goods in the token engineering space. And the idea is that this value creation will actually stimulate the economic arm, which will then fund further value creation. It's a nice little flow. Okay, so that's the TEC, and then there's Giveth. So Giveth actually spun out, well, I'm wearing the DAO shirt. So the white hat group that hacked the DAO to rescue the funds, we actually started Giveth together. And then Giveth became kind of a blockchain for good incubator. Bright ID spun out of it, DAppNode spun out of it, IDEN3, and a lot of other smaller projects that don't have good name recognition kind of came out of Giveth and launched, including, of course, the Common Stack. And now Giveth is it started as mostly just a charity crowdfunding platform, but now we're actually going to launch a token which will replace the government service of choosing which projects are nonprofit verified, right? So kind of like the 501c3 use case. And replacing that government service and bringing charity into the Web3 world and advancing, getting blockchain into charities. And so we haven't launched this yet, but we're very close. You will actually have what we call givebacks. So when you donate to a verified project on Giveth, then you'll actually get tokens in return, kind of like a tax-deductible donation, but you don't have to pay taxes to get it. Hey! Which is good, not just because, hey, maybe you don't pay taxes, but maybe you're donating to a project that's in Venezuela. Well, they don't really, you don't pay taxes in Venezuela, so. I don't. Yeah, no one does. No. So what is your tax-deductible donation? No, so, but still, we want to make charity a global thing and advance the tech of charitable causes because it greatly needs it. And yeah, that's probably enough from us, right? So thank you, guys. Oh yeah. Yeah. Meta game.
Hello. I'm Pete, working on a project called Metagame, which we categorize as a massive online coordination game. It's essentially a special purpose social network. It started from a project called Meta Cartel, which is a group of people giving out grants to people building decentralized applications. And so we saw a need for a system that onboards people to the ecosystem and helps them start their own project. So like bringing together all different building blocks and people to help and knowledge to, for people to start projects. But then the real goal is basically, my main agenda is curating people and projects that are about building a new sort of socioeconomic system. So like when I first got into crypto, I said, oh, like this is the technological infrastructure layer for the society of the future. But then, like with each cycle, it's been diluted and it's been more and more about speculation and you know, hyper-capitalism and pumps and all of that ugly stuff. So we really want to bring back the narrative of like using this technology to build a society of the future. And bring together all the projects that are working on such things. And then the long-term goal is have this society in the cloud that's also connected to the physical spaces. So like bring together all these like eco-villages and places like this and the liminal village into a network of like an alternative economy where people can go between these different alternative economy, future society in parallel with the current society, and that people can live there instead of in the current system. That's pretty much it. It's metagame.wtf and it's here. The logo is here. The logo is here. We got some nice projects also that are in the common stack, give it, token engineering. I need to talk to this guy, Project Arc. We've been already talking, but we need to follow up.
Stay in the same room.
Okay, hi again, Robert. My name, as mentioned earlier, I'm from Free Circle organization. What we try to do is to implement all these great ideas in the real world. We want to do it specifically in Liechtenstein. We have put some parts already, some projects in the environment there, and we want to connect it in a way so it forms social economy ecosystem running on a token which is free of speculation, but actually helps the community. freecircle.li. So what we already have is a platform for bringing local food from local farmers to local people. That's one part of the ecosystem. What we already have is license to actually trade energy in Liechtenstein. We have a peer-to-peer energy sharing platform, which you also want to plug in there. We work on modular living houses, which can be given to people where they can live. We have other projects in ideation phase right now. And what we are about to do in the upcoming months is actually start designing the currencies and token engineer the tokens ecosystem in there, so we can actually make it run. Liechtenstein, as I mentioned, has a blockchain act, so they actually it's legally implemented terminologies like blockchain and token, what it means in the Liechtenstein law framework. We want to use this. Everyone in Liechtenstein already has a digital identity. Everyone has an application in their phone with digital IDs. It's all running. And then this is the environment where we just want to put these ideas and make them work in the heart of the capitalistic world, Not many more places have such amount of rich people than in Liechtenstein. And as I said, if we make it possible in there, then I think it's possible everywhere. So we really like in the battlefield trying to take these ideas, make it work with people who don't know what commons is, what crypto is, and the challenge for us is to explain them in a way to communicate the added values and everything which we may communicate so that they adopt it and actually use it nationwide. So that's our goal. There's a lot of things which we don't know how to do, and we will be seeking for help in inspiration, experiences, and that's what we try to do.
What are the first signals from the rich people in Liechtenstein? Do they get it? Something of it?
It's actually great because we are in touch with people from the government, with the lawyer who actually wrote the Blockchain Act, and there's many people with influence who believe in this change. So we are connected there. The environment is, I would say, ready for us. We will probably fail, as I said, but that will move us further. We will gain some experiences, which then, of course, we will share with anyone else, anywhere, trying to do the same stuff. But we just believe that's the right thing to do, the right direction which the society should evolve, so that the world we live in is sustainable. So let's try it. That's our mission. I'll hand it over to Jacob.
Thanks. Yeah, so I will follow up on Robert because I'm also cooperating or collaborating on the project. My role, I guess, is something between a librarian or researcher / aspiring currency designer, I would say. And so my activities are kind of straddled between this kind of line. So yeah, I'm also in the token engineering commons, but my home, I would say here, is in holochain ecosystem. And when we speak about like token system, implicitly, I mean, we are using the term token, but we are also very much tending towards the more like credit-based paradigm and trying to find the possible connections. And yeah, since I said that kind of being straddled between those worlds is a bit difficult for my brain. So one of my kind of mini projects was to try bringing promise theory to try to kind of semi-formalize the concepts and find if we could find some like common language to make it perhaps a little bit more digestible. So that's what we are working on with Mark Burgess, like the originator of promise theory, to try to diagram all those different token concepts, but also mutual credit-based concepts, and we will see what happens. And last thing I'll mention, this is kind of a play project. We call it Currency Playground, and we use like a 3D environment in Rust Bevy, and we want to just interactively visualize very simple kind of currency design patterns. So not for simulation, but just like to help people play with, I don't know, let's say you can create a brewery and set up a mutual credit system and illustrate it in like a game environment. So this is one of our projects, and if anyone wanted to cooperate, that would be cool. So that's for me.
Hi everyone, my name is Gustav, and I've been around the block a bit in the crypto and community currency space, so also a little bit like Jacob, a bit in both worlds. First, I started out in trust lines at that mutual credit project, and also been involved in, or still am, in the common stack, and of course the trusted seed, and ran some campaigns, of course, on GiveEth as well. Member of Metagame as well. My day job right now is at a blockchain called NEAR, which is a third generation blockchain, very fast, very cheap. The main reason I'm here probably is as we started the Community Currency Alliance, and that's basically just a Telegram group, more or less. The goal with that is just to be a neutral ground for community currency projects, some that are, blockchain fanatics, some that prefer just physical nodes, some that maybe are using, some Web 2 old database system. So we have, my guess is, around 100 different projects around the world in there. That's just a neutral place to meet each other and to, learn from each other and connect with each other. So, if anyone want to join that, let me know. It's just a Telegram group. Very easy onboarding. Looking forward for interesting conversations.
Hi, so I'm Chris, and I thought maybe I should also just come up here. I joined pretty late, and so the logo is probably not on here. So currently I'm working more and more for the Gitcoin DAO, and before that, pointing out the logos, DZ, Common Stack, GiveEth, Metagame, I'm a little bit in, but mostly the Common Stack and GiveEth ecosystem, I guess, up till now. And yeah, so I recently joined as a Gitcoin steward. Who is a Gitcoin steward here? One more, yay! 2, yes. And who got like the GTC airdrop because they donated to Gitcoin? That's yay! Congratulations, quite some people. So that's of course just the start. But Gitcoin has with the Gitcoin DAO that they launched a fantastic project to really start, reaching so many people and bringing funding of open source and public goods in general to the world. I think, to me, I might be a little bit biased, but I just got in, so I'm still not too biased. They still feel like the project that has such huge brand recognition and brand awareness. Everyone knows Gitcoin, respects Gitcoin, and there is so much energy in that space. It's very scary, to be honest. I'm gonna be like, I didn't prepare this, I'm just improvising here. It's a bit scary because there's so much to do. There are so many people, and we need more people actually, but we also need some organization and structure. We've already been talking about this with some people this morning. We need active stewards who actually start managing this big project that can bring like funding of open source and public goods to the next level. So I'm really happy to be here and get more inspired. I'm already like basically bouncing off the walls by the inspiration I'm just getting by hearing about all these projects. And in the beginning, I think the thing that brought me here today was actually love. I'm gonna be honest. It was not talking. If you know the meme, it was not talking prices, smoking and flirting. It was not flirting. It was love. But I think love is a good starting point to be here. But I want to talk way more about all these projects and all the things. And up to the next one.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Adam. I'm not going to talk about currencies, but I'll talk about a few projects and in general talk about values instead. Some of the projects, I'll talk about the project of Dyn.org itself and some of the things that it's been doing of late that's pertinent here. Dyn's been involved in a flagship European research project called the Decode Project, which touched on themes of appropriate identity and verifiable credentials in the public service and public participation spheres of various urban environments, including Barcelona and Amsterdam. And through some of its crypto core components, allowed verifiable properties of people to be revealed without necessarily intruding on privacy or other details of their personhood. And using a similar back end, another project called the Reflow Project is using this crypto component called Zenroom to promote circular economies and to be able to validate and use zero-knowledge proofs and other modern crypto concepts to help with the integrity of tracking circular economies and circular material flows, so to speak, throughout the life cycle of our industry and work when we are producing things, but also for intellectual property. So with respect to licenses and code and digital works of all types. So I just thought I'd throw those two projects in a similar way. We've also got involved in another project involving distributed manufacturing through Fab Labs, through Maker Labs, and extending that perhaps into local small-scale engineering firms within the traditional capitalist model of making stuff, designing and making stuff. And, you know, the mapping between atoms and bits in the similar sense to the Reflow project and before with the Decode project to insert an amount of integrity within the flows and the process of materials and actors and resources, and with those events be able to bring some amount of human auditability, traceability and trackability into some of these concepts and values of circular economies, the acts of repair, recycle and reuse in terms of these circularities and so on and so forth. I think I'll stop there, but on a personal note too, with everyone's discussion so far, I'm very interested in discussing here and evolving ideas of consequences and scale. So bringing in all the wonderful ideas about currencies and different schemas to perhaps reflect on the sacred and profane as scales of these systems, these models that we build have impact. What impact do they have on the social, the political, and the human? Thanks.
Another round. Sorry, I'm presenting another project which I'm collaborating to, which is not here because it doesn't have a logo yet. It's called the Cop Valley from Damiano Avellino, which one of you may know. And it's basically wants to be a giant venture builder for cooperative startups in Bologna, in Emilia-Romagna. And he's already obtained funding from Lega Coop and other projects like Hypernova and Platform Design Toolkit, which I'm talking later soon. And basically, with Damiano, we wanted to create a locally based but global ecosystem of hard knowledges like business development, platform development, and so on, to gather ideas from the crowd, developing platform co-ops very fastly and launch them on the market by helping them with funds of the cooperative unions and credit cooperatives. Yeah, so it starts in 20 and 22 next year. And so yeah, we'll let you know soon. I am the guy that should be responsible of connecting the cooperative movement in this specific project with this crypto commons ecosystem. So we hope that will foster many connections, because I think that I mean the cooperative movement is enormous. It's like 10% of the economy, but if you don't consider just the money, it's way more. And it's quite not updated to Web 2.0, so we have to go there, and then we'll also think about Web 3.0. But I think that the main focus here is, and I want to bring it to the event too, and I will talk you infinitely about this, becoming, entering into the age of platforms and getting platforms organizing models, because another project I'm presenting, but I'm not part of them, is Platform Design Toolkit. Maybe someone knows it, okay? And we are friends with them, we invited them, but they are on holiday, so they are not participating, but it's okay. And yeah, I heard many discussions these days about the governance of crypto projects, for example. And from my perspective, that I studied a lot these platform business models, is, I mean, if you don't have an organizational model that works, nothing will work, no matter the technology, tokens, or money you have. And so, yeah, will be my mission in this gathering to first connect you all with the respective needs, but especially to making you aware of the platform economy and new platform paradigm, because I think I'm quite sure it will impact everyone, as we are shifting from having projects doing one thing to having projects that are basically defined with their functions in their ecosystems. So you're not just a project, but you are a function in an ecosystem or ecosystem of ecosystems. So yeah, let's face this complexity together. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Proof of humanity.
Yay.
Good.
Hello, super exciting to be here, first time ever. So we are from Proof of Humanity, which is a cyber proof protocol to register humans on the blockchain. And we are a project that has been launched quite recently, but with already more than 8,000 human beings registered. We stream a token, the UBI token, which is streamed 1 per hour. So every human being registering Proof of Humanity gets 720 UBI tokens in a month. And right now this equals to around $35, which is not that much in our terms, but for a village in Kenya, for example, it's life-changing. So what we're doing, besides being in our Proof of Humanity bubble, we are also part of BIEN, the Basic Income Earth Network, because there are actually many projects that aim to give a UBI to people. And what we try to do is see what are the challenges of these projects, and maybe we have the solution. So to gain in this difficult game, what we decided to do is actually cooperate all together to find a solution how to reach the unreachable, because this is the goal, reach the person who doesn't even have a phone. So besides that, we're organizing a hackathon just to get some fresh ideas in, because the price of the UBI token has to go up, so this can be a great way to do it. And we've been doing also some Mooncat accessory art, because we found out that it's great to put a percentage of the sales inside the UBI vault. That helps the price of UBI, and Umberto will tell more about the vaults.
Yeah, thanks. So the vaults of UBI are piggybacking on Yearn Finance. So basically the UBI Yearn vaults are like a top layer. We have 2 now and 1 more in development. The first one is for DAI, and the second one is for WETH. So basically what the UBI Yearn vault does is that the Yearn vault chooses the best profit strategy for that Yearn Finance has, and then streams that. So it's always looking for the most profitable strategy, and then that's the one that you are getting by putting your money into the vault. And what this vault does is that 50% of the profit of the interest, let's say, of the yield, gets burned to buys UBI and burns it to help maintain the price, and the other 50% goes to the person that puts the money. So in this way, we allow that philanthropy, for example, allows to make more money to help the whole ecosystem rather than just distributing the money and diluting it. So this is something that has been done, and on the 1st of September, we're going to have a call with the developer that did this top layer, Emiliano Bonazzi, that he is part of the Yearn Finance community, and so everybody is invited. Also in here, we are going to have a registration workshop to clear doubts about Proof of Humanity, how to register, and if you don't have any ETH or you are short on ETH, we are going to tap into the community of Proof of Humanity, because we have a group that is called Rolling Funds that was set to enable the people that do not have ETH to register them so that they can start reaping UBI. Yeah, so we can tap on that community. And well, that was about Proof of Humanity and UBI. But we are going to have also some podcasts, and everyone is invited. We're going to have podcasts, monthly podcasts about identity, about UBI, about governance. And so everyone in here is invited so that we can together think the challenges that we are facing and need some synergies so that we don't think on my solution is the best against other solutions, but better try to aggregate solutions to make something that works in the long run and for everyone, and not being like protective. Well, that's it. Thank you.
Very fun. I got my mommy Proof of Humanity.
Okay, so I'll talk about 2 projectual things that are essentially open. So I think that if you're interested in them, either essentially come talk to me. The doors are generally open and also open to different opinions. The first one I pick is, so my background is I've been working as you could call a structural designer in Economic Space Agency for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I think. But that's kind of my field has been like especially organizational architecture. And also, as mentioned in the morning session, my background to that is games. And one of these latest experimental directions is to try to, let's say, to increase the palette of how do we design organizations, both like looking at the possibilities that come from crypto, but also, of course, looking organizational history. And finally, this was something of like a modeling discovery in my EXA work was that if you actually take organizations down to Lego blocks and you take games down to Lego blocks, you come up with the same Lego blocks. Like essentially, if you think a chess game is a contractual organization between two people, it's a weird way of thinking about it, but it works. Like in terms of how you structure that game, well, people have rights to move the pieces, etc. But that works for any game. And it also then reflects back to organization. So in a way, you could think like in the horizon, that what we think of as a convention of design called organizations and the convention of design called games kind of come from very similar structural principles. But that's an interesting avenue because there is a whole lot of interesting, often you could say artistic structuring in games, and you have tens of thousands of point systems. What can they say for tokens because they actually reflect the structures? And for this, like the surface you could touch upon is like there is a group called XORG, which also has a Telegram group which you can just join, and it has meetings every week. And there is a kind of a bubbling idea of developing some kind of a release publication of ideas towards this. I won't go into the details, but if you're interested, come and ask. And so that's open. The second one is another rather more recent, let's say it's been bubbling in the last couple of months. And it's roughly about the idea of, you could call, economic arts. And by that, to squeeze a complex topic into a small thing, first of all, like the people joining to kind of develop this idea both come from crypto side, economic side, and art side. So there are people who are more curators from different places. There's in England, France, Germany, etc. But of course, from crypto developers, etc. But the key point here is that, of course, there are meeting points between arts and crypto. We can see NFTs. But if you trace back, say, decades, there is a common, what I would think problematic, is that art is very awkward with systems. It can meet faces, surfaces, and it wants to turn things that are actually inherently system-like, have an inherently system-like nature, like an economy, into can you make this picture in your gallery and then make an explanation on the side of it. And it actually likes NFTs because NFTs is once again a surface to show, or they kind of emphasize that. But ultimately in the long term there is an unhealthy quality to this, which is that arts doesn't really encounter what it is to be in a system like an economy, what it is to participate in it, what is a thing that you cannot squeeze to a surface. So essentially, the project is in the curators that have the interest and the courage to start the conversation that actually how could art encounter these system-like beings, like economies, as they are, and how could economy, including crypto economy, encounter the possibility that in a way like it's not just about prototyping, it is actually about exploring forms. The forms don't have to be optimal. They might be looking for diversity, which is a quality in arts in itself. Now, why would this be important? I'm not saying it does everything, But I think one of the key problems in the many problems we face, because as it was said in the morning, we are sort of fucked. But we have to be constructive even if we're fucked. That's my take on that. So one of the problems is that, first of all, we're missing a cultural literacy of even joining these kind of new economies. It's not just in the mind of most of the people. We could already do a lot with current tools if people would join it. But to build such literacy is not just let's connect the masses, because there's not really any more masses. It's rather building in different fields discourse about how economy could be different. And one of these fields is arts. It's not sufficient in itself, but it is potentially useful, and it's a field that is highly open to experimentality. So that's the key thing we're building with kind of in collaboration with art functionalities and crypto functionalities, is to build first a communication and works that would really start asking for art or challenging art about the existence of a system and creative systems as a core component of our culture. And how such a topic could be brought into discourse. And that's, once again, it's because it's bubbling up. If you're interested in that, the doors are open. Come talk to me. And if you have very weird ideas, that's probably a good thing. That's it. Yeah.
Can we get a little bit faster? So we're going to wait because I'm
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Josh. I have three projects to talk about. One is the podcast that I run called The Blockchain Socialist, which you can find here. It's just a podcast where I talk about blockchain and left politics. So if you're interested, check it out. But the main one that I want to talk about is Breadchain, which is this one here. And it's a project that came out of basically the community that started around the podcast, and like people who were sort of left-leaning and wanted to find a way to use blockchain in a way that sort of reflected our values. Because I think the sort of obvious sort of criticism that this space really gets is, of course, you know, everyone's a right-wing libertarian. Everyone wants to just like extract money out of you until you're like deflated, and you know all the bad things that are sort of out of that. So our task was to sort of try to find out, okay, like, is that actually true, and can we find ways that actually sort of reflect our values, sort of align closer to socialism than like this rapacious capitalism that we all sort of live under. So that's Breadchain, and sort of out of that, Breadchain is sort of set up as a cooperative. I'm a big fan of cooperatives. I sort of think of cooperatives as like mini socialism, sort of workers owning the means of production in a very, very tiny sense, and sort of like islands within like this big sea of what we call the global economy. So we're set up as a cooperative, and the hope is to build it out into a type of cooperative of cooperatives. So new people who want to start projects that sort of reflect the similar values can sort of apply to join, and then we can sort of all share our resources amongst each other, and sort of have some sort of like democratic governance around how we split those resources to fund people to work on those projects, rather than like, you know, having to work for corporations or what have you. So the first web application to be produced is hopefully going to be done during this conference. I can't promise, but we're really hoping. And then at some point later in the conference, if you guys want, I can show you how it works. But essentially, it's a smart contract. I mean, fairly similar to what you guys were talking about from proof of personhood, actually, or proof of humanity. But basically, as a user, you can send DAI to a smart contract, and then that smart contract gets forwarded to a compound lending pool. So you're sort of like giving us permission to lend out your DAI, and then interest is accrued, and all the interest accrued is given to the cooperative. But what's really neat is that as a user, you receive one-to-one collateral in what's called a bread token. So that sort of represents your what you've given, and now you can use that bread token to either burn it, so you can receive all your DAI back. So in a way, you can give money without losing any money, or you can essentially use the bread token as a type of basically how you would use DAI, right? If you can always change it out back for DAI, then basically it's always equal to the value of DAI. It's always the same as DAI. So it basically, at the end of the day, it sort of serves as a local currency except it represents that you support the cooperative movement or you support like the principles of the Breadchain network. That's sort of our first web application. If you're interested in talking about it more, let me know. If you want to like partner on different stuff, totally open. And Orion is helping with me on that. I don't know if you want to add anything.
I'll talk about my own stuff a little bit. Just the one thing I will add is that I think the thing that excites me about it, and I'm sure this is the same for other people here, is I think it's really hard to overstate how much of a benefit it is for people to actually like experience these things. Like when we talk about, say, democracy or like democratizing the economy, I think that, you know, one of the best things that you can do for that is actually give people ways of experiencing that themselves. But yeah, other than that, that's the main thing. For me personally, I'm mostly working on research, and like very quickly and broadly, kind of looking at questions like how can we kind of collapse the divide between like programmers and users, right? This thing that we kind of take for granted, and doing that in a way that's not by like making programming worse, right? Or giving people like something like Squarespace, right? Like that's not the same thing. So really like raising the floor for everyone that interacts with computers, no matter what their background is, up to the level of, you know, programmers essentially, and hopefully higher. And then in terms of, and so the other part of that research is kind of exploring what it looks like to go like beyond software, which might sound a bit strange, and maybe there's some semantics in there which might be a bit confusing, but that's a question that I'm exploring, and I'm obsessed with it. And in terms of things that I'm building, the main thing right now is a sort of I guess you could call it an interchange format, or it's a way of representing information or knowledge that aims to be interoperable at a level that's not, it's kind of outside of computing first. Like it starts in a more theoretical space to hopefully make things that can be more interoperable and kind of get all of the stuff that we've already built to kind of work together better and maybe kind of all merge into some, you know, giant global commons of computing or whatever. So, yeah, sweet.
And then I think the last thing we want to talk about with is from Oliviero, since I'm helping out with a documentary.
So hi, I'm Oliviero. I will be the guy that stresses you in front of the camera, so don't hate me. And I'm here with a splitted personality, like as an enthusiast with a short-term goal. I want to testify and document this beautiful gathering, also to help to communicate it and to attract other people into the discussion. And I'm also here as a noob. When I told my friends where I would go, they stopped listening to me at the word crypto. And so my long-term goal is to make a documentary that helps to attract the wider public to the topic. Also because lots of you guys were talking about being fucked and about like a depressive situation. And it's not just you that are feeling like this. Everybody's feeling like this, or lots of us are feeling like this. But hearing that there is like new ideas, new movements, new technologies, but also like really new ideas, it's mind-changing for a lot of people. And I would like to make it accessible. So I will later on ask you to come with me. We prepare a room upstairs, and we will ask you some... Exactly. We have 3 cameras, so we get you from every perspective.
It's even worse that it's my bedroom.
Exactly. Don't tell that. And we'll ask you some questions upstairs, and then maybe here during between one panel and the other, and we will try to put together like the story of the gathering, and then maybe, I hope so, like to amplify it and to go to come to visit to you where you have your projects and talk to you where you are working, and to make it like a full feature documentary. So we'll see. But let's start from here. Okay, thanks.
Maybe just the one question that we want to ask for everybody through, like, while we're interviewing people is, what does the crypto commons means to you? So think about that question and like what your answer would be, so that when we ask you, it's not like, and then you're like thinking on top. So letting you guys know ahead of time so that you can think about it and prepare the best answer, of course, possible.
Anybody else? No? I can do 1 minute. Okay.
So I'm Andreas, and as mentioned before, I work with a couple of co-ops, platform co-ops in Berlin and beyond. And the one I want to talk a little bit about it is Platform Co-ops Germany, because it's sort of like an umbrella, the network which puts all of those co-ops together. But before, maybe for the ones who are not so familiar with the term platform co-ops, just as a short clarification, co-ops, basically they are collaboratively owned and governed entities, because people, they can basically participate in the operative decision making. So like, you know, who do we employ, for example, but also they get a share and a say in the overall value that's created and that's been distributed. So at the end of the year, most of the co-ops, they decide with all their membership how the profits are being distributed and so on. Whereas this is the co-op, the platform just in advance shows that such platform co-ops are utilizing digital business models or governance protocols that are happening in the internet. So they are kind of compared to those old school and for hundreds of years co-ops. So yeah, having that said, we founded Platform Co-ops Germany by 2019 to create the digital cooperative economy in Berlin and also in Germany, because we felt it's by now really needed to support all those small projects that are most likely coming out of the sharing economy or social economy, but who have usually not really a chance against those big players. And particularly in the years of 2013-14, I've worked with like 200 social entrepreneurs in Berlin with social and environmental missions, but they all failed because of Silicon Valley money is usually destroying their business models or the channel towards customers or participants, and so that's why we, but also like those entrepreneurs, they moved on to this cooperative business model where you can participate and you know, really engage your ecosystem. And what we do very concretely with Platform Co-ops Germany are 4 pillars. One is community building. That means like we run a regular call series where we explain about platform co-ops, how to found them, and yeah, also how to you know, create your own communities for your particular project. Basically, that's what we do with Mondragon, with the New School, and other partners. The second pillar is that we consult founders and projects in starting their own platform co-ops. So last year we, for example, have helped Circles, the blockchain UPI project, to become a co-op. The third, the third pillar is that we also do infrastructure work. So we actually also engage with policymakers in Germany. Just created a petition with the Social Entrepreneur Network Germany together to embrace more digital practices within the co-op world. Because if you really look into it, the co-op world is like as fucked up as the normal economy. It's very topical, so that's not really what we want to push for the future. And the fourth column is innovation network that we run, software companies. Circles is part of it, but also Poly. Some of you mentioned data co-ops being interesting. That's Poly is a really interesting case you should look in. And what kind of keeps me optimistic is like that all the topics I mentioned now, and particularly this innovation network, is now funded by the Ministry of Economics in Germany, and we get some recognition. So that kind of tells me that we are on the right track, and that those ideas, they are actually needed, because those guys who are in charge now, they don't have solutions to the problems, and now they are looking into our directions. And yeah, maybe that's it for now.
slides.
So hi everyone, my name is Rok, or if you have trouble pronouncing the Slavic R, Rock is fine as well. Well, here I suppose in terms of this little representation here, and partly of why I'm here is I've been working with the Peer-to-Peer Foundation for the past couple of years, yeah, we recently wrote a paper with folks from around this area here. And yeah, if you guys have any questions regarding Peer-to-Peer Foundation and recent work, we can discuss that. But here I wanted to highlight a more personal passion project that I'm kind of interested in experimenting with here. It's a game, a word we've heard quite a few times here today, which I'm really glad about. And I know everyone's hungry and I won't take too much of your time, and there will be a place to explain a bit more, but essentially just picture a Monopoly board, and I know what you're thinking, another Monopoly hack, so original, but yeah, there's more to that. So there's two teams, let's say capitalism versus communism, or let's say green growth versus degrowth. The point is, like, this player identified seeming like discursive binary that's out there, and we try to embody these. And what we're competing for, it's an area capture game. We're competing for new economy narratives.
Development, and we haven't done anything since 2018. We do a bigger event. You had some ideas about hacking that kind of space. They're welcome. I'm in the process of trying to convince my boss. I don't know if he's my boss. It's like I'm kind of like, you know, the guy that runs stuff, or doing like a digital event kind of thing. I think these are the kinds of projects that, you know, government folks from across the world should learn about. The Liechtenstein guy that were mentioned, he was there in 2018, amazing guy. What's his name, Thomas? Oh yeah. He was amazing presentation. So those kinds of things, and then also like, Stuart in the big corporations movement, and we had a big working group called Imperative 21 with 70,000 companies all across the world. We'd love to have some of these ideas down there. We presented a paper to Biden, kind of thing, a proposal for economics in the US. I didn't participate on that, to be honest. But anyway, I had those kinds of open avenues besides Commons Stack. And yeah, how do I do those things? I had a collective down in Venezuela. So sometimes we do open-ended stuff, not necessarily blockchain, but yeah, and contract board as well for bigger companies and stuff down there. So yeah, anyway, just stuff. Let's eat. How do I turn this in?
You can go eating. We are coming back here to BMN 30. So,
Genial. ¿Cómo lo pago? How do I turn?